Well, happy Monday, hotties. We have got a quickie today, and it is inspired by the feedback that I got from the recent workshop that I hosted, You Are the Trend. I will say before we get into it, always ask for feedback, always follow people up, because you never know the gems and the ideas and everything that is kind of hiding within the words of your customer unless you ask them. And what I did is I basically printed out everyone that came along to my workshop and I just followed them up. I think I've got like about 15 people to go. And it was really interesting, the feedback, because sometimes, the people that are impacted the most will be the quietest in the call. And what was really interesting is when I had the chance to actually ask them, especially for the people that caught up with the replay, what did you find really helpful? It was so interesting that everyone said the questions at the end. Now, if you are on my email list, you'll know that it usually every week has the same format. You've got my little musings at the start, and then at the end, I think I give you things to ponder, like things to think about. And when I do my workshops, something that I love to do, especially if we're learning something around like a concept that isn't strategy, is to get you to think about things. And I love to ask you questions as almost like a circuit breaker to think about something different. It was so interesting, the feedback that people had given me, that they're like, I was just doing the same old shit that everyone in my industry was doing. But when you asked me this specific question, it's so interesting that all of this stuff that actually like bubbled to the surface. And a lot of what we were doing in this workshop is asking people around like, what makes you different? What is your unique perspective? Like, how are you different within your industry? When everyone in your industry is like going left, how are you going right? And if you haven't had a chance, head to the podcast episode before this, because you actually can listen to the workshop and of course hear these questions. But it got me thinking that if we ask ourselves and even our peers the same questions, we're going to get like the same output. Like if someone asks us a really lukewarm question, we are going to give a lukewarm answer. And it also got me thinking that I think that if we truly want an exceptional life, or if we are feeling like a bit, everything's just a bit crap, or we're kind of coasting through, we're in this period where stuff is just feeling a bit like ho-hum. And, I've been there before. I think one of the best things that we can do is like give our brain something to respond to by asking it a question. And, I think Anthony Robbins even says something about like, something about questions and like a better life. I can't remember the quote, but he said something, actually, let's Google this. He said, quality questions create a quality life. Successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. And I think because of this, it always got me thinking that, especially when it comes to delivering clients transformation, it's like, I can tell you what to do. But if I can actually ask you a question for you to determine what to do and to have that light bulb moment, you are more likely going to be able to go and do that compared to me telling you to do that, because you've kind of come to that conclusion yourself. So what we can do today, this week, moving forward, is to just get really clear on like the kinds of questions that you ask yourself. And I know that some of you may be like, I don't ask myself any questions, but you do. We show up each day and it's like, what do I need to do today? What am I going to post? What do I want to happen this week? What's my next launch goal? And we're asking these really generic questions that aren't even scratching the surface on the transformation that we could be getting and the better business that we actually could have if we kind of spend a little bit more time asking better questions. Now, I love asking a great question to a point where sometimes they're a bit of dinner party disruptors. Side note, if you want a good question, ask people what they would go to jail for. And this is where, use AI to help you. And I don't want this to turn into like an AI podcast, because that's just, there are experts out there for that. That is not me. And if you're after one, Brooke from Right Way VS is incredible. But I think, a lot of you are using chat, you are using Claude. And I think because of this, if you still are really conscious of you like outsourcing your brain and your creativity to a platform, and you not kind of developing that yourself, this is where you can kind of outsource maybe some questions to AI and get them so you to respond to that. Oh my God, that makes no sense. You can outsource some questions to Claude or Chat so you then can respond to that. You could just be like, hey, Chat baby, I want to have the best week ever. Can you ask me some, really important questions for me to reflect on my week or really get clear on what I want so that when I finish this week up on Friday, that I really feel that this has been a monumentally impactful week. Like, can you give me 5 or 10 questions and just see what comes up? The cool thing is when you ask yourself different questions, quite often you will be so surprised with the answer that you get. And a lot of us have, I think, a business that is quite same because we don't really change anything up. Like if we are going into every week being like, what am I doing this week? What am I doing this week? You can see here how it's like if we are responding to the questions we're asking, we're probably going to get the same results compared to if we really drill down and get quite specific with stuff. We are going to end up with maybe not initially a better life, but maybe we're going to be focusing on the things that we want to do. Like one question for you now is if we were to just forget about you making money and know that it was just going to come through on Friday, like where would you actually focus your time in your business this week? If you could remove 3 things without any consequence to yourself, what would you actually remove from your life or from your business? If budget wasn't an issue, what would be something that you would wish into your life right now? Like if I were to just say, I'll give you whatever you want, don't worry about the cost, like what would you actually desire? And you think about it within these questions, what you can then do is reflect back on stuff. And it's really interesting on that last one, the amount of times that people will say, oh, I want to work with you. And I'm like, I don't know if you're just telling me that because I'm here, but whatever it is, like you may want a snazzy website or a branding shoot. And we know that the things that we want usually cost in the thousands. And then this is where you can look at what you actually want and you can look at the plan that you have within your business and how you're showing up and be like, well, if I want this, am I putting any money away or am I expecting $2,000 to fall from the sky? Because that's just not going to happen. And I think that when you ask really good questions and you like, it gives you so much clarity. And what I want you to remember is sometimes clarity does not feel good because it is the wake up call that you need to have change within your life, right? So it's like if you get clarity that you are doing something that is detrimental to your growth that you really want, you may be like, holy shit, I am actually the one that's fucking my life up. What you need to make sure as you go through this is that you approach things with curiosity and not criticism. So we never want to criticize anything. We're just really curious about what's coming up and why. And be like, oh, okay, cool. That's really interesting that I want to go and do a new website that's $10,000 and I've been saying this for 2 years and I can't seem to find the money. Why do I think that is? Oh, cool, because I'm going and I'm spending like $100 here and $200 there and $50 on a monthly subscription thinking that this just doesn't add up. Maybe I need to get really clear on like where my financial priorities are. And you can see here how it's like anytime we are given an answer to the question that we ask, we're really presented in this like fork in the road moment where it's like we can go down the drama route where it's like we lose a whole afternoon because we become a professional victim. And we're like, oh my God, I'm so bad, fuck off. Or you can go down the route where you're like, okay, cool, this is so interesting. I'm so lucky that I have this data now that I can then craft a new plan to move forward in a different way. I love questions. And whenever I feel stuck, instead of sitting in the stuckness, and I love Brooke Castillo, where she's like, do a thought download. But sometimes I think that if I am so overwhelmed or if stuff in my life feels so messy, sometimes I can't even pinpoint a thought because I have like 500 going around at the same time. So the question stuff has really been helpful for me to like almost put a pause on the thoughts and just allow one to come through with the perfect question to ask it. So I will say if you're not on my newsletter, please join. Go to professionalbabe.com, go down the bottom and join. You'll get a weekly email and down the bottom there's always questions to ponder. But I would really love for you to try this out and be really curious about what comes up. Like allow this week to just be the week that you let go of generic questions and start to ask yourself better questions that are going to orient you in the direction of the goals that you want. And remember, sometimes when we have clarity for us to make a change, that is going to feel a little bit uncomfy. Sometimes we realize, oh yeah, shit, the reason I don't have what I want to have is actually because of me. That's okay. That's absolutely fine. Like, aren't you lucky that you have this realization now and not 2 years from now? That you had this today. Some people go through their whole fucking life never having that. But you've had this in this point in time. How fun is that? So hot stuff. I think I asked you 3 questions that I just pulled out from the top of my head. Can I think of 2 more? Can we do this? What are we doing? Okay. If we were to remove any judgment from those around you where you weren't being perceived or they wouldn't give you their feedback or their ideas, how would you actually change what you're doing now? How would it actually look different? And then if you think about the person that you know that you want to become, and even if it feels impossible, but it's an idea that you have where you're like, this would be nice too. What is something that they do that you could just bring into your life right now? That is something just small that is going to anchor in this new identity, right? So it's like, and maybe this is an action. Maybe this is something that you're going to buy. Maybe this is a new belief or a new standard. But just get really clear on that. Like, what are they doing? Who are they? And then just go forth and fuck some shit up in like a really positive, sexy way. Hot stuff. This has been a quickie, and hopefully a quickie that has left you satisfied. I love this. I love you. I love you more than, oh my gosh, sorry. I can't remember if I told you this on the other podcast episode, but I had to go and vote the other week. And like, apparently the line to vote was like an hour and a half long. I'm like, I'm not standing in the fucking sun for that. Like, I'm not getting sun damage to vote. That's just fucked. So I have 2 hats. One of them was when I went to Gwingana Health Retreat. And if you hiked this track called Kuroda, they gave you a cap. And I love competition and I wanted the cap. And someone said, oh, you could just go and buy it in the gift shop. They're like, we don't sell these. You have to go and hike it. Or I had this like fucking obnoxious beach hat. So I actually went and I hiked it. I did get lost in the bush and I had a moment where I briefly started praying because I was really stressed. And that's something, given that like I probably am more on like the little atheist quadrant of like, where are you on the scale of religion? But I love you more than my little hat. A few people are like, this suits you. This suits you. I just don't want to pull it down too far because then I'm just going to fuck my blowy. And we don't want that. No one wants a messy blowy. So I love you more than my hat. I love you more than, oh my God, my beautiful mom. It's Mother's Day today. And we've had a really good week. You know, I think as all mother-daughter relationships, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's tense, sometimes it's great. And we're so good at the moment. And I love her and she's really cute. She is like fully into Gilmore Girls. Jan is like a bit cutthroat. Like if you know Jan, you know what I'm talking about. But like her commentary on Gilmore Girls is hilarious. She should be on that show. What is it, like Gogglebox? I think people would actually pay to watch Jan's commentary. So I love you more than that. And if you are in Melbourne, there is a shop in Paran. I'm sure Paran. And it's called Kazari. And they sell these like beautiful Japanese antiques. It is stunning. The prices are incredible. I bought my coffee table from there and it was like over 100 years old. And I think I paid like $1,000 for it. Maybe it was like $9.90 or something. And it's absolutely stunning. So if you like nice things, and I feel that everything there is a really good price point for what you get, right? It's like, where can you get perfectly preserved antiques that are just so reasonable? And they've got so much stuff. They do have a website, but it's Kazari, Kazari. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, lush, lush, lush. So I love you more than that. And do you know what I love you more than? I love you more when you build community within a space and you walk up the street and people just know you. When I was walking down, so I was walking to see my mom and I walked past this cafe and one of my friends works there and I haven't seen her in forever and she screamed my name and she ran out and hugged me. And it's so nice to think that when I moved to Melbourne, I didn't really know anyone. I knew I had a friend in Ballarat. And I had another friend here, and then she ended up moving out to, I think it's Burwood, and then she moved back to New South Wales, and I had no one. I had 2 people. And to think now I know so many people, and it's so good. I just love it. I love it so much. How fucking good are good fucking sexy people? And you know how I know that? Because you're one of them, and I think that you are fantastic. Hot stuff. I love this. I love you, and I'll see you on the next episode.